and start our webinar sessions today. Okay. Prof. Dato, are you here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think we can start, yeah?
Okay.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good evening, everyone. On behalf of committee, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We appreciate you taking your time from your busy schedule to join us today. We hope you will learn a lot today. We have lined up for you to be fruitful and engaging. So before this webinar begins, I request all of cooperation from all of you. Just a few seconds to recite Surah Al-Fatihah together. Okay. We are having a session from Selangor, Malaysia, which is will present and discuss on Sharia in architecture, focus building, planning and design. For your information, this is the third webinar series collaboration that organized by Sharia in Built Environment, SiBE, from Southeast Asia Built Environment Research Center, SiBE, Faculty of Architecture, Planning and UiTM, collaboration with Muhammad in Islamic Built Environment, NLB, from Academic of Contemporary Islamic Studies at UiTM. So furthermore, I would like to welcome, if we have here our both FSPU and HIS team, and together with the deputy deans. So for our webinar today, the flow will start with speakers sharing presentations, and it will end up with the open questions and answer sessions. Therefore, any question from participants, please write it in the chat box, or you may ask directly to the speaker. Besides, the committee will share the link for feedback attendance form. The cooperation for all participants is greatly appreciated. So I think this is the time that we have to start to introduce our speaker. So what we have here is Professor Dato Seri AR Dr. Asiah Abdul Rahim is a professor at the Department of Architecture in Kuliyyah of Architecture and Environmental Design KAID in International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM. Apart from being a professional architect, managing her own architecture firm, Dato Architect, she is also a renowned architect for designing for persons with disability, PWDs, universal design expert, and an access audit consultant. She obtained her PhD from Oxford Brookes University, United Kingdom, with her previous degree of Bachelor Architecture from Deakin University in Australia and Diploma in Architecture from our local University of Technology, UiTM. She was a council member, Malaysia Institute of Architects from 1994 until 2004 with the Honorable Treasurer. She has been representing the Institute to attend a meeting regarding accessibility, disability and habitat agenda at the United Nations in New York, USA and Bangkok, Thailand. She is also an active member of LAM, known as Malaysia Board of Architects, for 3 years and contribute in developing continuing professional development CPD program. Besides, she was among the pioneer lecturer in establishing Kuliyyah of Architecture and Environmental Design, KAID, of International Islamic University Malaysia about 20 years ago. Many of her works have been published. For example, first is the Access Audit in Religious Building and Public Spaces in Damascus City, Syria, Housing in Islamic Perspective, Brunei as a Case Study, keperluan pengguna dan reka bentuk bangunan untuk orang di Malaysia, IBS towards open building system in Malaysia and chairing 7 Malaysian standards including MS 1184 to 2014. She is the chief editor of Journal of Universal Design in Built Environment and also Journals of Architecture Planning and Construction Management, an ongoing active researcher and consultant for the design of person with disability, design for aging populations, elderly, and also responsive design for people perspective and people needs requirement. She has received recognitions by achieving the IIUM Quality Research Award in 2003 and 2013. So basically, she has an invite researcher and has a published widely in both local and international journal in the additional need. She is an eminent speaker and has spoken in many conferences in Malaysia and abroad. So, all right, without any further ado, I'd like to welcome our speaker, Professor Dato Seri AR Dr. Asiah Abdul Rahim. The floor is yours, Dr.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank the moderator today, Miss Nur Hazirah Hasni, for your introduction. I also would like to thank Professor Dr. Surveyor, Dr. Khairuddin Abdul Rashid, who has invited me to present a paper today. I would like to share my knowledge. I have been in UIA for the past 22 years. Being a professional architect and also researcher, my knowledge related to Islamic Rivi knowledge, not that much, but I'm trying to share with you. But one thing I would like to inform you that I learned a lot being a lecturer in UIA, especially on this area, Islamic built environment. So before that, I would like to share with you one of the study that I did with my student in September on heritage study. One of the case study is Masjid Jamek. It is about 3 minutes film video.
Agama Islam amat sebenar, peraturannya cukup benar. Tetaplah padanya, jangan nanar, peroleh kebajikan yang bersinar.
So this is the heart of KL. This is where everything began.
These buildings are the buildings that form the core of Kuala Lumpur.
The Sultan wanted this mosque to be built. The mosque in this case is a tourist attraction.
This is the trailer by my group, Sutera. For our heritage study, we did our masjid drawing in Masjid Jamek. Masjid Jamek is very, very important to Malaysia. This building is iconic, and this is the first masjid at the national level, which is located in Kuala Lumpur. And in 1960s, Masjid Negara was constructed, and Masjid Negara now become the national masjid for Malaysia. So there is a little bit of the ruh of Islam, which is masjid, the house of Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. So when I was given this topic by Professor Dr. Khairuddin Abdul Rashid, I was a little bit nervous. I was a little bit worried as well, because the topic is quite big. But based on my 22 years experience teaching in UIA, but before that I was a practicing architect with my small firm, but you know, with that experience, that I would like to share with you how I integrate Islamic teaching into my profession as an architect, as well as a lecturer, to share this knowledge, or to impart this knowledge to the students. But before that, I would like to thank UiTM again, because I was sponsored by UiTM to do my PhD in 1989 until 1994. And I was a UiTM lecturer before I joined IIUM. I stopped UiTM because I opened my firm, Dasa Architect. Later on, I joined IIUM. Okay. Before I proceed, I would like to give you a little bit background of the historical timeline of the built environment, just to get us some ideas. Okay, so Nabi Adam alayhisalam is our first prophet. So all of us are his grandson or granddaughters, and Hawa, his wife. So Islam started during his time until now. So we know about the Mesopotamia, and then Egyptian, the pyramid, and so on. There are a lot of all sort of architecture, and Islam become materialized when Masjid Quba in Madinah. It was the first masjid by a Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then Islam was spread all over the world. So you see Islamic architecture in different form. Let's say if it is in Morocco, we got Moorish architecture. If it is Spain, for example, Alhambra, in Alhambra, in Granada, you see different type of architecture. And later include in Egypt as well, and Abbasid, Syria and Iraq. I have been to many of these places, so I can share a little bit of my experience, and because I learned through visiting these places. And then we learned about Ottoman in Turkey, because Islam spread during Ottoman more than 32 countries in the world. Architecture, heritage, culture, food, architecture form, and so on. And then spread to India and the Mughal architecture. I've been to all New Delhi. I've visited Taj Mahal with Professor Dr. Ismawi. Yeah. So all this architecture, I can see how Islamic civilization play an important role. One thing for sure, I remember my very good friend, Professor Dr. Ismawi. I think he was the best ever technical person who has contributed a lot in this topic. So I'm one of his student, sharing his thought and so on, and I learned through together with him. And at the same time, when I work in UIA, I read Quran and learn about Sunnah as well, and I read Quran almost every day to understand further, because I cannot talk to you about this topic if Roh Islam to start with me. So the spirit of Islam is very important for us to understand what is Islam, and also the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we have to follow through whatever our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned to us, whether verbally or his action. So those are some of the information which I would like to share with you. And also in our country, Islam arrived from Terengganu dalam kurun ke-7 ke-8 macam tu. And it was written by Ibn Battuta. And then Islam also spread from the south of Thailand, south of in Nusantara, and then we also got Islam from south of Filipina, Sumatra, and also Kalimantan. So these are all kawasan Tanah Melayu, the Malay area, and also Malay Sultanate. And based I think I can go straight before I proceed. I just these are some of the example I showed Makkah. This is before February. I was able to visit Makkah to do my Umrah, Masjid Nabawi, and then below is a Kuliyyah of Architecture. You can see the reflection of Islamic pattern, and also Putrajaya. Putrajaya is one of the big city in Malaysia which apply Islamic doctrine, Islamic planning doctrine, emphasize on the relationship between man and Allah, man and environment. So these are more pictures to see when we talk about Islamic built environment. Not only we talk about the religious building, but also we talk about the whole spectrum of built environment, the whole spectrum of architecture, on housing, office, recreational, and so on. So the overall built environment. So you can see some example in Istanbul, Turkey. So you can see the ambience, and Granada. I showed some of the example there. And I visited Granada twice. The last one was 2018. The first one 2006. You can see the example, the pattern there. The internal, this interior of Granada. The row that this building was designed and constructed, they take from Al-Quran and Hadith. For example, they talk about river, water, and you look at Istanbul also the same. So the professional architect then, they are very well versed about Quran and so on. So that's why the architecture is very close to Islam. So this is the content of my presentation. What is Islam? Introduction to built environment from Islamic perspective. The coming of Islam in Malaysia. The Islamic built environment in Malaysian context. So I talked a little bit on Malaysian housing and the influence of Islam, universal design, and the conclusion. So what is Islam? Literally, submission, surrender, safety, protection, and peace. Technically, it can be understood from 4 aspects. First, total submission to God or to God's will. This refers to the broader and general meaning that everything submit and dependent on God. All creatures demonstrate their creator's glory. All creatures, what does it mean? Human being, jinn, animals, plants, hills, and so on. Second, it implies the religion of Tawheed or total submission to the one God brought by all the prophets. Surah Al-Imran 384, page 84 to 85. It is also called Din Al-Qayyim or Anif. Surah An-Nal. Third, refers to the religion specifically named by God to the one established by Prophet Muhammad. Surah Al-Ma'idah, which manifests the final and the most complete form of the religion of Tawheed brought by the previous prophets. So we have many prophets, but the most important one is the 25 prophets. Islam in this sense means to submit and to practice whatever commanded by God through Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there are two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fourth refers to the outward practices, rituals of the religion as distinguished from the inner aspect of the religion. It refers to the 5 pillars of Islam. Shahada, prayers, fasting, zakat, and hajj. This I got obtained from Assistant Professor Dr. Ismail bin Muhammad 2020. He was invited to our kuliyyah to enhance our Islamic knowledge. So this information I gathered from him and I learned a lot. So another important information here, as Muslim believers, our highest ultimate sources of knowledge and wisdom, principles and values, norms and guidance are the glorious of Quran and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May the peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, his family, and his companion. For us believers, it is Quran and Sunnah that we accept as the highest authorities in our lives. So, what does it mean from this? In Islam, all human beings, we have to do two things: fardu kifayah and fardu ain. Fardu ain, we have to pray 5 times a day. So those wajib activities we have to perform. The fardu kifayah is other things. For example, today I'm teaching, working, and others. Those is under fardu kifayah. So what I learned from UIA, in the morning, every day before I come to UIA, I will do doa. Sahaja aku menjalankan tugas sepanjang hari ini kerana Allah Ta'ala. So including both fardu kifayah and fardu ain. So now the Quran, holy book for Muslim, it tells you of your creator, of his attributes, of how he rules over the cosmos. Can I move my picture so that I can read better? Of how he relates himself to you and how you should relate to him, to yourself and to your fellow man and to every other being. Muslim obligation to read, understand and follow the Quran. The first one is very important. Dia kata apa ni? How you should relate to him, to yourself and to your fellow men. Meaning, we talk about oneself. Then we talk our family. Relationship with our family, relationship with our community, relationship with our community, yes, or neighbors, the relationship with the cities, bigger picture, housing, housing estate and so on, and then to the states, negeri, and then to country, and then to our global, from country to country. So meaning, this is what is taught by Quran, the relationship between man and man. And then Muslim obligation to read, understand and follow the Quran. The Sunnah. The word Sunnah means method, example, or path referring to what the noble Prophet said, did and agreed to. The Prophet's Sunnah emphasizes the natural needs and disposition of every human being. The Quran commanded us to do good, for God loves those who do good. The Sunnah of the Prophet provides more detailed guidance on doing good, example, the practice of charity and sadaqah. Sharia. What is Sharia? The Islamic moral and legal system derived from Quran and Sunnah. The Sharia also recognizes local customary law of any places so long as it is not conflict with Quran and Sunnah. Just now I show you different cities in the world. We saw Istanbul, Granada, Kuala Lumpur, Mecca, Madinah, and so on. The law is Islamic. But the people, the culture, the practice of religion, the physical, the architecture, not necessarily the same, especially the architecture. Because we have to refer to climate and others. The purpose is to realize and secure the general good for the interest of people by promoting their welfare and keeping away harm, granting their vital needs, dururiyat, catering for their requirements, hajiyat, allowing for betterment, enhancement, and improvement. So anything that is good, and in accordance to Quran and Sunnah, so we can practice. The vital needs in order are 5. The deen, protection of religion; nafs, protection of life; akal, protection of intellect; protection of lineage, nasab; and wealth, protection of property. So these are the things that we should consider to follow our Sharia. These are the 5 things. So what I can learn from this, whatever is good that we do for human being, for animals, for our planet, for human being as long as we follow and protect people and life. This is what we are supposed to do, and we follow the Sharia. This is from my very good friend, Dr. Dawina. In UIA, they wanted us to be Murabi. Murabi, in the context of architecture pedagogy, is a teacher with concise and responsibility towards the Creator Almighty, Allah, mankind, and environment. The task is to produce graduates as architects and architecture-related khalifas or stewards to enhance the built environment in God vision or Tawhidic approach. So when I first joined UIA, when people ask me what is so Islamic about this architecture, I wasn't able to answer. So because my knowledge about Al-Quran, Sunnah, and so on is very, very little, Islamic Ruh is not within me. I was, educated overseas for 8 years in Australia and UK. So my knowledge about Islam was also very, very basic. So by knowing this knowledge, it comes to you. That's why I feel, when I was appointed to be a lecturer at UIA, now already 22 years, I never feel tired teaching students. If my head of department gives me 19 credit hours or more subjects to teach, I never say no, because the more I teach, the more I learn. And it is my responsibility to teach my students. Some of them are very fast, some of them moderate, some of them slow in understanding architecture. So it is my responsibility to teach. That's why I don't mind if my student call me at night or anytime, WhatsApp me to explain, because I was paid by UIA to serve my student because they are my client. Okay, little bit of a vision of IIUM. Aims to become leading international center of education excellence, which seek to restore the dynamic and progressive role of the Muslim Ummah in all branches of knowledge and intellectual discourse. So how can we combine or integrate Islamic and architecture? So the integration is the values, the good values, Sharia compliance that we have to impart or we have to teach our students. Mission is to achieve the triple ICE, integration, Islamization, internationalization, comprehensive excellence. Dia maksud dia the whole, as a whole. So the vision for my kuliah to be center of excellence for the environment that promotes integration and Islamization of knowledge for the benefits of the Ummah. So my task here in UIA is to teach students, whether they are, the majority are Muslim, so that they become Muslim technocrat. Yeah? Jiwa besar, jiwa dia besar. At the same time, they are technocrats. They believe in Allah. They are strong in practicing Sunnah and so on. So the mission of KAED follow through by producing ethical, competent, and versatile graduates by applying the Tawhidic approach. So just now I show you the video. So this is what IIUM has produced for the past 22 years. We have done Trail of Islamic Heritage Study. This is where we learn about the Islamic civilization throughout the world. What can we learn about the leaders before, their strength, jiwa yang kuat, how they managed to construct building so beautiful in Alhambra Granada, precision. They are good in medicine, they are good in architecture, they are good in engineering, they are very Islamic, they read Quran, they are Tafiz. Yeah? So there are many. So I visited and see some of these in Spain, in Iran, in Syria, and so on. Yeah? So in India, we have done mainly most of the case study that we did was in India, Turkey, Syria, Egypt, Iran, Indonesia, Malaysia, and China, as well as Bangladesh. So in China, we have a lot of good architecture, especially the masjid. Yeah? And Islam came to China through Silk Road. And Islam come to Indonesia, Malaysia through Spice Road. Dua, satu jalan sutera, satu jalan rempah. So you can see their architecture, and majority of the heritage of the past are very strong, functional, and they're also sustainable because they don't use a lot of electricity, very nice ventilation, and so on. Even in Malaysia, we have very nice traditional Malay house and so on. So now I go through further to see more information that we gather from Al-Quran. that talk about built environment. In Islam, all things have been created with purpose, with objective, and in proportion and measure both qualitative and quantitative. Al-Qamar, ayat 49. The role environment is the world to worship its Lord and Creator and to be subjected to man whom is around. Man must respect the environment in that he is dependent on it. Man cannot but coexist with the environment, giving away and receiving in return proportionally to what he offered. We, every day, the last 1 month, we talk about water, river. The water from Selangor River have been polluted. This is due to the bad manners of human being. They throw bad things to the river. They don't respect the environment. So respect to the environment, human must treat it kindly and gently, and not to cause damages to his surroundings. So as an architect, you don't have to bulldoze or cut everything, cut trees and everything, so that you can do a lot of development. So this is already written in Quran. You have to be very careful. So God is angry. Now God is very angry. That's why they send COVID-19 to all human beings throughout the world, because we are destroying. We polluted the air, we polluted the water, we polluted the sea, we throw rubbish and so on. So this is one indicator that God sent his army. So how should we human beings behave? Quoted in Al-Quran, when Ibrahim said, "My Lord, make it a secure town, provide its people with fruits such of them as believe in Allah." And the last day he said, "And whoever disbelieve, I will grant him enjoyment for a short while, then I will drive him to the chastisement of fire, and it's an evil destination." Al-Baqarah, ayat 126. More information. In Islam, house is a place to rest, relax one body and mind, enjoy legitimate worldly delights, as well as to worship, teach, learn, and propagate the message of Islam. It is one of the fundamental rights that must be enjoyed by every Muslim. So what can we learn about this? Sometimes you have your high-rise building next to a bungalow. Yeah, you can see many of these in the big town. Yeah, so the bungalow do not have any privacy. There are cases where you have lots of land, but your lot is very far from the road, the main road. But your neighbor, who is very close to the road, must give access to you. So this is bagi jalan lalu. You not only give road access, but also ventilation. This is from the spirit of Islam. According to Imam Al-Ghazali, having a dwelling falls within the basic necessities that must be sought by everyone. This lack of it causes people to be displeased with God and even sometimes to deny Him. This is what I have highlighted. For the master planning or the implementation of Putrajaya, they are using this, the planning doctrine. So one of the authors is Professor Dr. Ismail Mizain. He wasn't able with us today because he has had the appointment, but he wished me good luck. So this is important. Man and the creator. And then man environment. So comprehensive, man as the focus of development, multi-dimensional activities, quantitative and quality change, equitable utilization and distribution of resources. So we have to, so all architects, all consultants in the built environment, the civil engineer, landscape architect, town planner, they have to have this in their mind as our rule. Now I go further. Look at the users in the built environment. Self. Then we have our family, we have our community, we have our cities, countries, and global. So Islam looking from this angle, and then we must know who are the users. And then from our architecture knowledge, we call user-centric in the built environment. We consider the users from the womb to the tomb, able body and disabled body. So we have children, we have adolescents, we have adults, we have elderly, as well as infant. If you look at this cross-section, and now in our built environment, throughout the world, the percentage of elderly are increasing. For example, by 2050, Japan, 15% of their population if I'm not mistaken, 30%, 35% of their population will be above 65 by the year 2050. Maknanya every 100%, 35 will be elderly. Then we have to consider children, infant, adolescent, and so all these people are very, very important for us as designer to consider them to live in our built environment, safety, security, able to go to work, job opportunity, able to go tourism, information and so on. Because when we talk about able and disabled, for the disabled, there are two groups. Person with disability, those are wheelchair, user, blind, deaf, walking with stick, autism, learning disability, mental retarded, and so on. Those are under disabled person. But aging population in Malaysia are increasing. So the percentage of dementia is high. Dementia, there is no cure. Dia tak ada ubat. The percentage of dementia is high. The percentage of elderly people closely related to disability. So our built environment, for me, should be accessible, should be reachable, should have connectivity and seamless journey. So now I bring you to Malaysia, little bit, going back again. This is what I have highlighted to you. Alam Melayu, yeah, we are Malays. Majority is Alam Melayu. Before we were colonized, we are one. Yeah? Before British came, before Dutch came, and so on. So Islam spread through Empire Funan, Angkor Funan, coming down to southern of Thailand, also in southern of Filipina, Borneo, this one Jambi, Sumatra, Jawa, and so on. So these are all. That's why the population of Islam, the biggest is in Indonesia. Yeah? The percentage is big. So what we are doing today, thank you to Prof K, is very good because we are looking as a whole. Yeah? When we design our building as a whole, yeah? Globally, not only at our house level, but at global level. The coming of Islam, little bit I have already highlighted. The coming of Islam in Malaysia, replica of Terengganu Stone inscription at Historical Museum, Kuala Lumpur. So it was the stone inscription, Kuala Beran Terengganu, written in Arabic script and constituting an order to promulgate certain Islamic laws. Yeah, it was in 702. Yeah. By Fatini 1963. So this is one of our evidence that Islam has arrived in Malaysia through Terengganu. So more importantly, here we talk about masjid. Yeah? When Islam come, they always construct masjid. Yeah? For us, Islam come via laluan spice route by the people from Middle East. Yeah? Through India or through Yemen and so on, to come down to Malaysia as a business person, and they married to the local and some through business. Yeah? So during that time, a lot of masjid was constructed, not only in Malaysia, but also in many parts of Indonesia and so on, yeah? In Banten, in Jawa, Demak and so on. So those were constructed about in the 15th century or earlier than that. The earliest mosque, for example, in Malaysia, the earliest mosque was Kampung Laut Masjid in Kelantan. Yeah, this one was written by Halina. And then the multicultural nature of Malaysian society. Yeah, now we go beyond. So not only we talk about masjid, madrasah, and so we go beyond. Yeah, we have many colonial building. Yeah, and so on. And then we have all sort of architecture. After independence, we have all sort of architecture in Malaysia, influenced by modern architecture, where the architects got their education. Let's say if they are graduated from UK, they brought their knowledge from UK, from Australia, from US, and so on. So campurization, bermacam-macam, all sort of architecture, and then we forget from our Quran and Sunnah. That's why some of the masjid have circular shape divided by two, sometimes the hexagon shape with columns in between. So this is not right, yeah? Because good architecture is what we see, that rectangular shape is the best option. Tempat yang the first line will be the highest makmum, highest the first row will be the larger number of makmum and so on. So those are the knowledge that we should learn. So these are the earlier architecture that we see. I've been to these places, Masjid Kampung Laut, Kelantan. I haven't been, but this one through literature. But I've been to Wadi Al Hussein Masjid, Teluk Mano, Naratiwat. You can see the architecture very strong. You feel different. Roh dia lain. Non-nails and so on. And there is another one, Surau Aur, Manangyong District, Patani. This one, they moved this building to this place. So what can we learn from these two buildings? And the top one move. Masjid Kampung Laut dipindahkan. So majority of the Malay architecture, traditional Malay architecture, for masjid, they already apply IBS, Industrial Building System, pasang siap, including Malay traditional house. This is what we can, one of the contribution of traditional Malay house as well as traditional masjid. Boleh dipindah-pindah, boleh cabut pasang balik. Now I got a little bit on the housing, Malaysian housing and influence of Islam. So for your information, in 2005, I was in, I can't remember 2005 or 2006, I was in Oxford then during my sabbatical. I received a call from RMC UiA that I was asked to do research in Brunei. Actually, my knowledge then was not that much about housing from Islamic perspective, but I managed to finish one research in Malaysia on similar topic, housing from Islamic perspective. 3 case study. It was in Putrajaya, Subang Jaya, and Subang Jaya. If I'm not mistaken, the other one in Shah Alam. 3 case study looking at various criteria from Islamic perspective. And I use similar methodology, and I do that research in Brunei to see what is the expected outcome, because the title given to me is almost similar. But Alhamdulillah, because Malaysia, we have many races, compared to Brunei. Brunei, their population, majority Muslim people, number one. Number two, Sultan of Brunei. Alhamdulillah, he has a very strong leadership, especially in implementing Quran and Sunnah in their built environment. You can see this. You feel very, very different if you go to Brunei. I do not know. I feel one thing for sure. This country, it is a safe country. Yeah. The architecture that they have, not to show off. The size is just nice for the Brunei people. And then when I distributed the questionnaire, I was helped by the pegawai daerah. If I'm not mistaken, is Muara, Kawasan Muara. And I would like to thank also Dato Pangeran Osman. I think he's here from Brunei. Assalamualaikum, Dato. Thank you for listening. And I was informed Puja is distributing this poster. Puja is pertubuhan Puja Ukur Jurutera and Architect in Brunei, distributed. I think I learned a lot from Brunei. So the ambience, the architecture, the people, they are more not the word, understanding of Islamic built environment. They understand the application of this concept or this criteria of Islamic housing. They really practice in their housing. I think I would say one of the best example through my experience. I've been to Pakistan. I've been to Madinah. I visited my friends, Farid Mustafa over there, and I learned their architecture as well, and so on. So they, different culture, different person, group of person. So the architecture is slightly different. For example, kalau kita pergi Madinah atau Pakistan, the fence is very high compared to Malaysia and Brunei. Their fence look up to 6 feet high, so that they cannot see the ladies from outside. So those are some of the things that I learned from them. So this is, if you look at the influence of Islam in traditional Malay house, you can read from this. There are a lot of things that we can learn. Yeah. Did I go straight to the next one? How to go to the next one? Next slide. Okay. This is the information that I gather. A few characteristics of Islamic built environment, especially on housing, have been identified, which many of them have been fulfilled by Malay traditional houses. Among those characteristics are privacy for both visual and acoustic, layout plan, segregation between male and female, segregation between public and private spaces, providing separate room for bathing, housing scheme orientation, decoration, moderation expenses, and cleanliness. So these are the criteria that we found from the Malay traditional houses. Malay traditional houses. If you come to my kampung, Rembau Negeri Sembilan, especially my kampung Sepri, all the houses, traditional Malay houses in my kampung, all are facing to Qiblat, 90%, 90 degrees facing to Qiblat. So my house is more than 100 years, meaning the knowledge of our great grandfathers before me, they are very knowledgeable and aware about the requirement for Islamic built environment. So I think, I mean, kita kadang-kadang pun, the young architects or the young generation or the owners of the building, they are not familiar with this. So the old people are much, they are more informed. So we go straight to this one, Surah An-Nahl. Surah An-Nahl, it is God who made your habitation, homes of rest and quiet for you, and made for you out of skin of animals, tents for dwellings, which you find so light and handy when you travel and you stop in your travel, and out of their wool and their soft fibers between wool and hair, and their hair rich stuff and articles of convenience to serve you for a time. This one already written in Quran. Guna kulit binatang sebagai kemah, dwellings. So these are all is written already. Yusuf Qaradawi defined the house which is in accordance to the Quran verses, the place in which an individual protect himself from the climatic impacts and in which he finds freedom from the restriction and pressures of society. Basically, it is a place of rest for the body and the relaxation as well as peace for mind. So this is from Safik Omar, my friend. They talk about Islamic culture and civilization. As much as individual and families bred and nurtured therein constitute the fundamental units of Islamic Ummah. Therefore, a house has a potential to take up the role of an educational and training center which are able to produce healthy and potential society member. So another one by Kamarudin Muhammad Noor, he claimed that typical Islamic house has been designed based on the function, nature of the family and its social role. The house is expected to respond to lifestyle, culture and comfort, economics, geographical condition, building material and as well as techniques. So Islamic architecture is determined primarily by function or use and not by form. So coming back to this, for your information, I would like to thank Untan University Tanjung Pura Pontianak. They invited me twice to talk about traditional Malay house as well as masjid. I think in July this year. So I think the third seminar that we have with Prof. Khairuddin and his team is the continuous, because we go from the traditional to masjid. Now we go detailed to housing. So we can relate this, because based on the previous pictures that I showed you, when we talk about architecture in Spain, architecture in Morocco, and the architecture in India as well, and Southeast Asia, the form are not the same because we have heavy rain and hot, so we have lots of pitch roof compared to them because they have less rain. So this is what we mentioned here. Yeah. It's determined by the function, not by a form. That's why when you look at Masjid Kampung Laut, the roof is like, the building is just like a house. Similarly to the two examples that I showed you in south of Thailand. If you look at first time, it's just like a house, but they are masjid. So this is this is reflected to the local architecture of Asian region, especially Thailand and Malaysia, to use pitch roof, direct cross ventilation, and so on. Can you go to the next one? Okay, this is more information. A place where there are basic necessities of food and clothing, referred in Quran, where meals are eaten together, where there is hospitality and generosity, a place where greeting salam, a place where love, tenderness, and mercy is the norm of the Quran say, if we have met between you love and tenderness. Smiling is charity, a place to recite Al-Quran, a place to salat, and so on. Yeah? So these are all the information that we gather from Al-Quran talking about the condition or the situation of our housing. So these are more detailed. I'm not going to read one by one, but I'm sure you can read all this, yeah, which is related to house. Yeah? So a little bit about neighborhood. We go to the residential area. Yeah, neighborhood unit or residential area is defined as a place for people to live and doing activities. Within the context of Islamic urbanism, not only refers to the physical aspect, but also covered all spiritual value like religious, community, and human civilization. A scholar, Galza Haider, defined the ideal Islamic city as an area where the residents living based on criteria of faith, law, iman, sharia, vigilancy, khilafah, alms, sadaqah, economy, taqwa, knowledge, thinking, environment, hardworking, unity, justice, jihad, loyal, and beauty. So this is included in our Islamic neighborhood as well as our built environment. More information. Yeah, this is more information. They talk about Shafi and Hanafi define dwellers of 40 houses from every angle are considered as neighbors. This is where you need to have your masjid, 40 rumah. So these are more detailed by Maliki, Imam Hanafi, Imam Shafi'i, and as well as Maliki. They talk about neighbors. So now we go more detailed, Islamic housing. So I visited Iran. I visited Syria. I'm referring to their houses, not the modern houses. Yeah. So they separate between male and female. Yeah, anak lelaki, anak perempuan, as well as guests. So very strong separation. Yeah. So the application, even the knockers at the door, it is different for a male as well as the female. If you go to Iranian house, they have two knockers. So you don't, if it the rough sound for the male, the finest sound is for the female. So those are indicators for the owner of the house whether their guests are male or female. So they talk more about harem, domestic area, more information related to tidiness, cleanliness, and so on. Yeah. So now we talk about privacy, visual privacy. Yeah. When I did my case study in Brunei, yeah, especially rumah atas air, the door of the house is not directly to the door of the front. I think that is very, very good. So you tak nampak straight to the other house. So it is good if you are design terrace houses, your door not directly to the front door of different houses. Visual privacy, acoustical privacy, the material that you use between one room to another room, height and high projection. Height and high projection also very important, so that people do not peep through your windows. Yeah? This is related to privacy layout, facing Qiblat if you can. But there is a question when I presented a paper in Shah Alam, attended by ustaz. Ustaz and those who learn religion. They asked me whether for the room, sometime when you pray, you are facing the toilet. You are facing the toilet. So they asked me whether is it possible not to face to the toilet. So there are two opinions here. When we do housing project, the layout of the building tu bermacam-macam arah. Yeah? Sometimes you have terrace houses or semi-D houses, but the design of each building tu sama. So we are not able to move. Let's say it just happened when you position the semi-detached, when you pray facing the kiblat, but you are praying to the toilet. But the toilet tu ada dinding, you have walls. So for me, because there is nothing in the toilet because you already flush, and your toilet is clean and you have walls, so it is okay for you to pray to facing kiblat, but in this case facing to the bathroom. Segregation between male and female, segregation between public and private space, public, semi-public, and private, providing specific room for bathing, house orientation, decoration, moderation in expenses, and cleaning. These are all the characteristics of Islamic housing. So more information related to Islamic principle. They talk about human activities, about socio-cultural economy, and so on. And then we talk about policy, total plan doctrine, which I've already highlighted before. Yeah. Now this is the book that I wrote together with Professor I think Pangeran Adnan from Brunei, Dato Pangeran Osman also from and his team. Yeah? And I had a lot of support from them, especially from their technical group. When we did this and to collect the data as well. So this one was quite long ago, about 14 years ago, but I just show you the findings then. But from 2006 until now, I did a lot of heritage study in various countries in the world, looking at, I already told you, the Islamic civilization, the culture, and so on. So these are the example. There are 6 case study. The majority of the houses, this is the rumah air. This is rumah air. You see, there are a lot of bedrooms. So separation or segregation between male and female are there. So the yellow is the public area. Yeah, this is family and kitchen. 2 entrances, one through the kitchen and the other one to the main entrance. Normally the ladies, they come from the other way, or sometimes they can use the main entrance. So this is the interior of the house. This is the project done by the government of Brunei, if I'm not mistaken, where the rumah air was burned down. So they constructed new unit. They have 4 bedrooms, very comfortable, 4 bedrooms, and they have toilet. One thing is interesting about Brunei. They have toilet, they call it suka duka. Suka tu wedding lah kot. Yeah, they have bigger toilet, good for their people, visitors. Duka tu meninggal. Yeah? During that time, 2006, now maybe it's different, I do not know. Maybe they have to bring the mayat to masjid or something like that. But majority of the case study, they have that. This is the example. So they have one unit, one bungalow to another bungalow. Yeah? This is all floating. And then the entrance of the door, not facing to the entrance to the other door. So indirectly, they already applied the Islamic approach. Yeah. So these are the example. So everything, the masjid, the sekolah, everything on the water. Petrol station and everything. Very interesting. I was in Brunei, I think last year again. I was there twice. They have even done a very nice improvement. Terrace houses, a lot of construction on the river. And they have improved the waterfront. And their waterfront are very accessible because I was using, with chair sometimes. So I tested the ground. So I think they have done a lot of improvement in terms of their built environment. Yeah? This is all the details. Yeah? Very, very safe. See? Yeah? Very nice. This is another house. Yeah. Yep. Very nice. I just go through very quickly. Another one. This one, the last one. I like this house because the owner managed to buy the land, the lot facing to Qiblat 90 degrees. So they have one room at the back here, nanny room, separated from the main building. This is more, they need more privacy so that the assistant or the maid didn't come into the house during night time. I think this is quite interesting architecture. A nice prayer room facing to the Qiblat, and so on. So these are the example. So I would like to add, because just now I mentioned to you regarding, I will stop another 2 minutes. Regarding application of university design, we understood in our built environment, we have able body and disabled. So it is important to make sure our built environment are usable by everybody. So the application of university design is very, very important. So this is more information which you can refer to. Yeah. So more hadith, and as well as from Al Quran. Yeah? Fulfilling the rights of the disabled, elderly, and the poor. What I worry, we forget about this group of people. So the elderly who are disabled are not able to go out from their house. What happened if we elderly professional, who like to enjoy traveling, tourism, and so on? If the built environment inside or outside building are not accessible, they have to stay. So I hope all the professional architect or designers must consider accessibility, seamless journey. Yeah, even it is written here, wajib ni. Ya, Nabi Muhammad pun dah suruh dah ni. Riwayat ni semua hadis, and then this one written in Quran Al-Hujurat. Cultivating and caring and compassionate society. So we have to respect this group of people. In Malaysia, if I add the elderly plus disabled person, more than 3 million. More than 3 million. I'm also under, aging group society. So I do not want to change my lifestyle. I need to, to go wherever I need to go. But now I use all, lane, OKU lane, especially traveling before. Yeah. So this is more information, responsibility of the mass. Yeah, even our Prophet has warned in such a strict manner against misleading the blind away, to respect the blind person, vision impaired. Yeah, because such is he who mislead a blind person away from his path by Albani. Prohibition of isolating them and the harms that may follow. Riwayat Muslim. So this is very important to support this group of people. So we must give them opportunity. I like to show this picture. From number 1 to number 8 are users in our built environment. So we must cater for everybody, yeah, so that they can have continuous accessibility and connectivity. So if you consider the disabled and the aging, so the whole built environment will be good for everybody. So in university design, we have vertical movement and horizontal. Vertical movement meaning we have our lift, talking lift with braille. And then you have to consider, what about if you bring the deaf person inside the lift? So what are you going to, how you can improve your lift? Horizontal escalation, your pedestrian walkway, and so on. Yeah, these are all the facilities that you must provide in various type of building typology for person with disability. Yeah? And we need to train our reception, our security guard, sign language to assist hearing impaired. Little bit about Malaysian standard, MS1184. Now we are revising. 2020, we are revising this document because we identify more building typology need to be more accessible, including housing and so on, yeah, heritage area and so on. So this is on asset management for masjid, Malaysian standard for masjid, and then we have for public toilet, yeah, and so on. So in conclusion, the diversity and variety in the Islamic environment can be revealed in case for a better education and knowledge in architecture to be learned and practiced in the reality world of environment. All professional in the environment should include Islamic values in their practice. Yeah? Saya dah highlighted tadi, as well as Islamic criteria. Yeah? And then in order to have a good Islamic environment, we have to closely follow Quran and Sunnah as our guidance, and also the Sharia compliance. It is recommended that the Malay traditional house and traditional village approach can be used in our modern planning. Yeah? For example, in Putrajaya, we have they have followed this through, and also to have respect to our people, respect neighborhood, and then we consider privacy and so on. With that, I end my my paper this afternoon with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Prof. Dato. So, thank you for the very interesting presentation. So, dear participants, now we come to the Q&A session. I think before that, we received a few questions in the chat box. We will start with the question number one, the participant from AR Yes Yusuf. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Is asking about, you keep mentioning the role of the building. Care to elaborate on the role?
Bro,
Yeah.
the spirit. So I give you an example. I give you an example. As a Muslim, we have certain we are taught to behave in certain ways if you follow the Sunnah. I remember there was one lady who is also an expert about housing from Islamic perspective. For example, kita nak masuk toilet kan, normally when we enter the toilet we use our left leg kan, jadi pintu tu buka ke mana, bukanya guna tangan kanan ke. So the positioning of the door lift, number one. Number two, when we wanted to enter the house, somebody's house, normally when you stand, this is the values, you don't stand directly in front of the door, you ke tepi sikit. I remember my good friend Dato Wan Muhammad, yeah? He was the ex Director General of JAKIM. I remember he came to my house, dia tak duduk depan pintu, dia duduk tepi pintu. Jadi bila you buka pintu, when you open the door, you don't see him. Maknanya he respected me. Later I realized, when you go to somebody's house, do not, it's because sometimes you didn't dress up properly or something like that. So he stood away from the door, not direct. So that's number two, values. So these are, I mean, architecture build environment in order to have the Islamic values, tu dia datang daripada owner and also the architect who designed the building for them. This is what I wanted to say. For example, friendly to the users. So you include the universal design in the building so that all users, especially the disabled, can have opportunity for education, to go to school and so on. Jadi dia ada roh lah pada bangunan tu. Or else the disabled will be complaining they are not able to go to school because there is no lift. They are not able to go to the park because the park has many drops and so on. So these are the Islamic perspective to make people, to make the public to have ease movement from one place to another, from inside building to outside building, and continuously. Thank you.
Okay, Prof. The second question is come from Siti Hamidah Abdul Hamid regarding, does an Islamic housing design consider on the ritual of mandi's jenazah? What is the criteria of if any?
Mandi jenazah, yeah. The best option is to have bigger toilet. To have bigger, one of the toilet must be bigger. This is what I learned from Brunei. They have bilik duka. They call it bilik duka. It is written in the planning requirement. Bilik duka meaning if you have dead body, mayat, so dia akan mandikan di bilik yang besar sekali. So most of the houses that I showed you, majority, I think about 5 houses, no, 1, 2, 3. The 3 bungalows, they have bigger toilet on the ground floor.
Okay, any participant who like to ask Dato, Prof. Dato directly, please unmute your speaker. Can have an open Q&A session. Anyone?
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Sri. How are you?
Salam, Alhamdulillah.
Okay, Prof. Thank you for sharing your priceless experience with us. How do you see the future of Malaysia? I mean, moving towards their awareness and consideration of having universal design in designing mosques and other buildings in Malaysia, Prof. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Shamzani. For me, we have the Disabled Act, which was written in 2008, and also MS 1184. In Malaysia, there are two types of standard. One standard is voluntary, the other one is compulsory or mandatory. So Malaysian standard for facilities for the disabled is under mandatory, and it is written in UBBL. In UBBL, it is written you have to refer to MS 1184 and MS 1331 to provide facilities for the disabled. Now, what I wanted to inform you, dah tahun 2020 So the knowledge that the technical person, be it architect or engineer, that you have learned, and those who are practicing, you must apply this. You must provide facilities for the disabled in your built environment in future. And for your mention, I think local authority, they are aware. For example, Putrajaya, Perubatan Putrajaya, they provide checklist what to be provided by the architect and so on. So they check. I think the BKL also do the same. Even they have a unit for they have the disabled unit to look after all the drawings before approval. So they and many more, including MPP Penang, Penang, Majlis Perbendaharaan Shah Alam, Subanjaya, PJ, and even in Negeri Sembilan. So the aura or the vibes are very positive towards providing facilities for the disabled. In this case, in Malaysia, including Sabah and Sarawak, in KK, they have improved a lot. And in Kuching waterfront, I did the access audit in 2008. I visited many times. They have improved, especially near the Hilton, the waterfront, and opposite walkway as well.
Sorry, Prof. Sri, if I may ask another question. Well, recently, the government has presented the latest budget for Malaysia, and I think I saw a good initiative for our PW friends. Would you like to give some comments and view on that matter, Prof. Sri?
Yeah, I think our friend Rasadiba has done a good job, and the Minister of Women, YB Menteri, as well all the officers, KSU and so on. I think they have considered all the views from this group, the disabled, the elderly people, by providing better funds for them. So I think a big congratulations to this ministry and all the hard work from the ministry and the staff.
Thank you, Prof. Sri.
Terima kasih. Yeah, there was a question there. Okay. Yes. Any question?
Yes, Prof, I have a question. Hello, boleh dengar?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm Yazrin, AR Yazrin from Kuala Terengganu, yang asked you about the row of the building just now.
Okay. What is
Okay.
your suggestion?
No, I don't want to go on that matter because I think that one maybe a coffee with you would be nice on the row of the building.
Yeah.
Tapi cuma sekarang ni, okay, what we're doing here in Terengganu, at least my firm, we are actually specializing in Islamic housing design. But sometimes we do face some challenges from the local authority because there are certain things in the UBBL that does not allow for a certain technicalities. Contohnya here in Terengganu, we are only allowed pagar for about 5 feet, and some of the pagar needs to have openings, etc., etc. So I have argued my ways with the local authority, but then because it's the UBBL, so we have to follow lah. So what I'm trying to ask, is there a possibility from maybe UIA in collaboration with PAM to actually include some clauses that can make way for design that complies with the Islamic Sharia for future? Because we managed to have the UBBL revised for the disabled person. Yes. So I do not see why we cannot have a revision to cover this subject. So maybe
Your topic was about the fence. Are you
one
talking
of
about the
it lah.
fence?
One of it is the fence lah. So then there are other issues as well. I mean, when we go on a bigger scale project like masjid and stuff like that, so there are some other technicalities as well, and some jurisdiction. Okay, so yeah, we deal with Muslim authorities here, but somehow it's really tough at times. Not all at times. Yeah. So I mean, personally, we here at the firm looking forward for orang kata some enlightenment in our local authorities lah on this matter. Okay, Prof.
Okay,
Thank
okay, I
you.
take note of that. Okay, thank you.
So,
There is one person from Rami Alafandi from Germany. So glad to see you. Greeting from Berlin. Thank you.
yes, I
Welcome,
think,
Prof.
yeah.
Yeah, Waalaikumsalam. Do you have anything to say?
Welcome, Prof. I'm Jamal,
Jamal.
Dean FSPU.
Okay. Oh,
Prof. Jamal.
Jamal. Oh, from Jamal,
Yeah.
how are you?
Fine, how are you? First of all,
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Jamal Laili,
excellent. Yes, I'm Prof.
Yeah.
First of
Okay.
all, on behalf of the faculty, I would like to thank you for sharing your knowledge, enormous knowledge and expertise with all of us, not just at UiTM, but also around Malaysia and so around the world. Okay, so I'm doing it at home because I'm on MC, long MC, like 12 weeks
Okay.
MC.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
yeah.
You take care. Okay.
In addition, I have one question, Prof.
Okay.
Prof. Dato, related our township.
Township.
I
Okay.
mean, yeah, Malaysian township, Putrajaya aside, okay, do you think that the new township that's being built in Malaysia, like for the past like 20 years, we have a lot of this new township in Puncak Alam, as well as Eco World, all of this township. Do you consider them like the newer one be more Islamic compared to the old township that we have? Okay, I'd like to get your comments on that.
Okay. Okay. Before that, I actually I was in I bought a house in Subajaya in 1989. Then in 2003 I moved to Putrajaya. Actually for 2 years I wanted to buy a new property because my late husband was a wheelchair user. So I need accessibility, mobility for him to go about without my assistant. So I have to find new place. So I visited many places. So at the end of the day, I bought a property in Precinct 8 in Putrajaya, where the location is very close to hospital, very close to Lake Club, very close to the waterfront, very close to Medan Selera, very close to Pasar. So I just talk about Putrajaya. I've been to other places, tapi saya nak yang dekat dengan hospital. 5 minit sampai. So in Putrajaya Precinct 8, the Medan Selera double story has a lift. And then the Pasar is double story. So before he went up to the first floor to have his haircut, because there is a big ramp going up. Although there is some there is no landing, he has to wheel up to the first floor and very high building. But at least there is a ramp to go up. and he also can wheel from my house to the lake club. So so I need this accessibility so that he can be independent. He's a civil engineer. So at the age of 40, he has to stop work because of disability. So I do not want him to have depression. So I moved from Subanjaya to where I live in Subanjaya was not accessible. There is no pedestrian walkway. So when I put my gate straight away to the road, so it is very dangerous for him. So I moved because of this element. Pedestrian walkway and the stairs must be good, and the ramp must be good. Sometimes there is no ramp, there's a big drop. So I'm not able to carry him if there is a big drop. I had a bad experience where I have to, I drive from UIA to Putrajaya, and when my husband wanted to go to toilet, so we stopped at one of the petrol station. There is a big drop, 150 mm. Saya tak boleh nak angkat dia, very heavy. He's 70, so he did his business in the car until we reach Putrajaya. So that's why I try to champion this, especially now, a lot of aging population, because Malaysia is going to the age negara tua. So we have to start and improve our built environment. So for me, Prof. Jamal, pedestrian walkway is very important. The design of the unit also very important. For your information, Perbadan Putrajaya, in the housing project, they consider accessibility for some of the units, which I think is a good, is a big congratulation to the officer there of their awareness to provide facilities for the age group and the disabled. I think this is timely, very, very timely. As well as children playground. I have done a lot of SS audit, more than 600 buildings, parks and so on throughout the country, throughout Malaysia. So there is one park in PJ, friendly to elderly, friendly to the wheelchair user. Wheelchair boleh exercise. The wheel and the park has a lot of ramp. At the orang buta, there are some guiding block and warning block there. So that particular park is very good. And DPKL also has done a very good job. A new public space near the lake. And that building we have had OSIS at the access audit, and it was a good rating and accessible to the people, especially the disabled and the elderly people as well. So many people visited that place. So for a professional like a town planner, landscape architect, yeah, those are doing big master planning and so on, they must consider this. Not only writing, they must understand, they must attend courses. They must put this topic in their syllabus at the university and so on. And sometimes the people design good buildings, a good environment, but they forget this group of people. And it is very difficult to upgrade the facilities at the later stage with cost. You robohkan and you bina balik, double cost.
Yeah.
I hope I am answering your question.
Okay, yes, okay. Thank you very much, Dato.
Yes, masih sama.
Thank you, Prof. I think they have left another 2 questions in the chat room.
Okay.
Before we end up our session for today, since it's already 4:30, yeah. So the second last question is come from Cik Farah Atika binti Syari regarding I would like to ask your opinion on Islamic architecture that we took from Middle East and we apply in our country building without respecting the traditional architecture environment.
Oh, okay. The Middle East tu maksud dia apa tu? What sort of architecture? Is it the housing? Is it the shopping? Is it the form? What sort of architecture? Is it the form? Is it the form? Respecting traditional architecture and environmental.
Form and facade, Prof. Form and
okay. Form and facade. Oh, yang ini sebenarnya architecture ni macam fashion. Fashion ni. Fashion baju, macam buat baju kurung. Baju jubah orang Arab, baju kurung orang Melayu, baju kebaya orang Melayu. But the user is the user is the human being. So the fashion is Middle East. Sama macam UIA lah. If you come to UIA in Gombak, you feel different architecture because the roof is pitch roof because we have heavy rain, but the facade they have some sort of Middle East reflection in the design. Ada juga tropical architecture, ada juga Middle East with arches and so on. So for me, the most important thing, your building must function. Yeah, and the type of building also different. Let's say if you wanted to do traditional form, for a smaller size of building is okay, but for bigger building like high rise and so on, you can apply the craft, the carving, the material, local material, but not the architecture. Normally, the high rise building is we use modern architecture, but the craft and so on we can use local. I hope I'm answering you, sister. Sister
Yes,
Atika.
thank you. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, we're gonna be the last question is from Nurul Shafinas. He's mentioned that he's your ex-student from KAIT. The question is, what do you think about the acceptance of non-Muslim regarding Islamic approach in built environment in Malaysia?
Okay, I share my experience when I was invited to give a talk in Singapore many years ago. So I presented the topic was public toilet from Islamic perspective. So the audience was, majority was the architects from, Chinese architect from Singapore, and as well as the lecturers. So they were telling me, during Ramadan and Hajj, in Changi Airport, they saw the Muslim men wearing this Umrah attire. So they queue a long queue to the toilet, the male toilet. Although there are a lot of urinal in the toilet, but the male Muslim, they do not use the urinal. So they were they prefer to wait rather than using the urinal. So I explained to them, according to our prophet, we are not allowed to urine standing. Yeah? Kita tak digalakkan kencing berdiri. Yeah? So that's why they asked me that question. That's why they try to add more. Those information they try to add more WC instead of urinal in their design. But one thing I like to add, when I visited Singapore recently, I visited Masjid Sultan, if I'm not mistaken. I like the ablution area. The ablution, everything is flat, including where the water falls into the drain. It is covered the same level as the floor where you stand to take your wudu. So it is good for both wheelchair user, elderly, and the public as whole. So it is a very, very friendly place to do ablution. So I really appreciate that sort of a design. There is one question I saw just now. Daripada mana ya?
It's from Sheila.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Is interesting about you are mentioned about the university. In your opinion, how can the university play a role in this Islamic true on built environment and planning?
Okay, that is very good question. So for your information, all the syllabus that we have in UIA, so we have 5 departments. We have architecture, URP, quantity surveyor, applied arts, and landscape architecture. In our syllabus, we inculcate the Islamic values in our teaching to our students. So the students also learn worldview, Islamic built environment, worldview about Islamic built environment. They also learn Al-Quran and Sunnah in their syllabus. So that helps. Not only the student, but lecturers also have to do diploma in review knowledge. Kita buat kursus Narazirah. We have to go and attend this. What is Quran, what is Sunnah, and so on. So we have to learn, or else we cannot speak about it because kita bukan ilmu wahyu. Kita bukan ustazah kan. Kita kan arkitek kan. So we have to learn to understand and how to apply this into architecture. But actually, the most important thing is value tu. Termasuk ethics dan sebagainya. Nilai-nilai Islam tu yang penting sekali. Banyak dalam Quran boleh rujuk. Banyak
Yes.
sangat-sangat. Yeah.
Okay, I think before we end up our session,
Thank you.
read out a few comments here. It is from Emilia Kalsum that he said that thank you for the experiences that you gave it. And it's a very interesting presentation. I hope that you remember her that we are talking about the Sharia in architecture, especially settlements before our city Pontianak. She going to
Thank you.
assigning a slightly different question as a principle of
Islam rahmatan lil alamin. Yeah.
we already realize that Islam has a lot of goodness for the whole event, the universe, based on your experience. I think this should be a final question, yeah, because it's already dragged at 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
do we
Yeah,
come?
true. Actually, we are following this rahmatan lil alamin because I didn't mention this. It is rahmatan lil alamin. Kita gunakan konsep yang sama juga dalam build environment and our way of life.
So the
It
question
was highlighted there, and it is true. We are following that as well. But I didn't mention. I forgot. Yes.
Okay, so the question is how do we convince the government, especially for the country that are not Islamic country, to make it a standard or guideline according the Sharia and Sunnah?
Oh, itu soalannya bagus ya.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say I used to stay in Oxford before for 4.5 years from a non-Muslim country. How the Muslim practice over there? So they have the opportunity to have a mosque. They also the Pakistani people are very strong, following the Islamic way of life and Islamic practice. I think there are a lot of good values in non-Islamic country. If you visited Japan, very clean, and they use water in their toilet and so on. If you go to Spain, they have two WC, one bidet, one WC. Very, very. I think the Spanish people, they follow the Muslim previously, so that's why they have two toilet, bidet, and what else? I've been to other countries where they use water as well. I think Japan is using it, but during COVID-19, that's why if they don't use water, they are rushing for the toilet roll. You can see people are rushing to the shopping complex to buy this during MCO and so on. This is something they can learn from the Muslim. You don't need the toilet roll that much if you have water and so on.
Okay. I think Alhamdulillah, finally we come to the end part of our third webinar series. I would like to summarize into a simple statement by saying that rigid to state that Sharia only aims or symbolize design project that lead to Islamic identity, especially the design of mosque, a Sharia compliance hotel or hospital, Islamic museum and so on. But this should be reflected towards the quotations of Islam is a way of life, and I really love the quotation from Ibn Abdul. This already mentioned the previous webinar also by Dr. Dani, which is state that as far as architecture is concerned, it is the heaven where man's spirit, the soul, ruh, soul, and the body find refuge and shelter. It must be fertile and preserved. So therefore, Sharia integration in planning and design has a great potential, especially exploring towards built environment, which is referring to human, by human, and to be used for human activity. So we would like to say thanks again to our speaker for sharing the informative and very interesting talk, beside to audience for your support and active cooperation. It's just like we just have very short time to continue it. And before we end up today's webinar, we close this series with Surah Al-As.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Till we meet again for the next webinar session, it should be another 2 weeks from now. So inshallah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Prof.
Thank you very
Assalamualaikum.
much, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam
Thank you.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you, Prof. Asiah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Sama.
Mastura Adam.
Thank you, Mastura. Thank you.
Jazakallah, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Prof, I think there's a lot of people here today from your connection, yeah.
Yeah.
From Ibu,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you from my colleague from Pontianak and Indonesia, Riau, and
Yeah.
also from Bahrain.
Yeah,
Yes,
we have a Bahrain. Just now we have a from Germany.
and also from Germany.
Yeah, Germany, Berlin, Germany. And of your ex-student, you can see.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.